Welcome to the Book Tea with V.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Book Tea with V. Guys, I am so excited. I am one Shania Twain song from kicking a door down from excitement because I'm going to Canada this week and I'm all packed. My nails are done. I've got my cowgirl boots ready. I'm about to be in my small town romance era. So we've got no pop, no tea, no what I've been reading because I really need to narrow down what I'm going to be reading in Canada. And so I've got a bit of a basic TBR to follow. God knows if I will. But let's go through what I'm wanting to read while I'm in Canada. So I'm only going to be taking about 5 physical books with me just because I'm a very heavy packer as it is. And I don't know what the Canadian bookstores are going to be like. They might be amazing, so I want to leave room. So here are the 5 that I'm thinking. So we've got Dark Captive by Faith Summers. It's Mafia. It's Bratva. Honestly, this is the blurb. I stole the Bratva princess and locked her away on my island, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, blood for blood. Stealing Isabella is the only way to find her father. I just wasn't prepared for the temptation of her, or the effect she'd have on my cold heart. One taste I shouldn't have had, and I wanted more. She's my captive, my enemy's daughter. Being with her is unthinkable. Yes, I want to claim her, take her, own her, make her mine. The deal was a life for a life. I'm just not sure I want to give her back when the time comes. I'm sorry, but this sounds utterly amazing. This is a definite. Now, you guys know that I'm absolutely obsessed with Catherine Cowles books at the moment, but I'm yet to get into the Tattered and Torn series, so I want to take Fractured Sky. And can we have a minute for the book? This cover is so beautiful. So here's the blurb. Damaged, broken, destroyed. I've heard it all. A single moment of trusting the wrong person shattered my life into pieces, and my family has never looked at me the same. It's impossible to convince them that I'm anything more than the broken girl they rescued all those years ago. Until I meet him. Ramsay's grumpy demeanour and menacing scowl scare most of the world away, but not me, not when I've seen his gentle hand soothe an abused colt or comfort a terrified mare, and when I finally get the courage to strike out on my own, Ramsay's there. Roommates felt like such a safe proposition until Ramsay's lingering touches and wicked smile light a fire in me I don't think will ever be extinguished, and he feels it too. But just as a new life begins to take root, an evil from my past emerges from the shadows, casting a darkness on my newfound freedom. And this time, they won't settle for pieces of me. They want everything. I don't know. I think it's a definite. It's definite. So this next option is a bit of a different one for me. As you know, I love my romance, but I did want to try something different. It's not a definite, but it's definitely an option. And it is The Teacher by Freida Mcfadden. And I don't know, I just picked it up and I did find it really intriguing. So this is a bit about the book. Eve has a good life. She gets up each day, gets a kiss from her husband, and heads off to teach math at the local high school. All is as it should be, except... Last year, Kasem High was rocked by a scandal involving a student-teacher affair with one student, Addie, at its centre. But Eve knows there is far more to these ugly rumours than meets the eye. Addie can't be trusted. She lies, she hurts people, she destroys lives. At least that's what everyone says. But nobody knows the real Addie. Nobody knows the secrets that could destroy her if people at the school found out. And when Eve discovers the shocking truth, Addie will do anything to keep her quiet. I don't know. I'm a little bit invested. I think this could actually be a really good plain one. Especially if it grips me. I feel like I would just fly through this in a couple of hours. So do I? Don't I? I don't know. So that's 3. And it's a nightmare. I'm going to end up with 10 in this suitcase, I swear. Now, this next one is a duet. And I've been meaning to read these books for such a long time. Could this be the chance? It is the Wilted Kingdom Duet by Maggie Cowles, and it's like a dark bully romance. It's kind of right up my alley, to be honest. I feel like I've been looking for something like this, so I feel like this is definitely going to be coming with me. So it basically says, I'm a pawn in a twisted game I never agreed to partake in. There's no getting out. Dax Carrington decides all the moves. He's always 2 steps ahead of me, an animal disguised in warm, privileged snakeskin. He'll sink his teeth into every inch of my soul until he owns all of it, all of me. When I'm at my lowest, he'll blindside me, pulling me back into his arms, continuing to win the match that I don't know how to play and just want to escape. The only problem? In Dax's world, the plot ends once he's the last one standing and there's nothing left but dust, including me. Guys, this is going to be a nightmare. Is it a definite? I feel like it absolutely could be. I could so get into that. Now, these next books, I feel like I should be taking on a plane because I received them on a plane. So it would be like coming full circle. Now, I met Kaya Carrington-Smith when we were on the plane back from Denver in April. She is just not even just such an amazing author, but such a beautiful person. And she gave me, we were sat next to each other. It was like the stopover moment, but platonic. And she gave me Lethal Vows and Virtuous Vows. They're mafia. It's right up my alley. I think they've got to come with me. How could I not? From a plane to a plane. They know how to travel, so they know what to expect. I think they're definites. So let's get into the Kindle side of things, shall we? So this is just going to be a nightmare. And to be honest, I don't know when I'm going to be reading. Like, there's not a lot of plans for when we're out in Canada, so I might have a lot of time to read. We may be so busy I can only read 3 of these, but there's 2 plane rides there, so there's at least that. So on my Kindle, I'm thinking, obviously, these are no-brainers. These are just absolute definites. Know that. So we've got Delicate Escape by Catherine Cowles, Thea and Shep's book. I have been waiting for this book for such a long time. Sparrow Falls is somewhere I would genuinely want to live with all of those people. And then we have one of my most anticipated reads of the year, God of Vengeance by Michelle Hurd. I have been waiting for this book for such a long time. I'm a Michelle Hurd fan. It's no secret, and I put aside everything when she puts a book out. But then I also wanted to shake things up. I wanted to put a fantasy in there because it can't just be all of one genre, and it tends to be small town romance or mafia romance. So I was like, you know what? Let's chuck in a fantasy. After I read Quicksilver, I thought I do need to read more. So I'm thinking of reading the Veiled Kingdom series by Holly Renee. I think that one could actually work for me, especially on the plane. I've got 17 hours. How many books do you think I can get away with? 2? 3? Depends if I sleep. Because I'm trying to manifest that we get upgraded to business class. I'll let you know how that goes. Back to small town, back to sort of that country vibe. We've got Alive and Wells by Bailey Hannah. I just hear such amazing things about these books and this whole series so far. So I want to read that one. And then to keep with the theme, though this is a bit darker, we've got Sovereign by Raya Morris Edwards. I hear this is a really good, like, dark cowboy romance. Well, it'd be rude not to. We're going to like the Calgary area and we just miss the rodeo. I'm just devastated because I feel like my boots are going to go a little bit to waste. But don't worry, I'll make the most of it. I'm sure I'll find something. When He Desires by Gabrielle Sands, because you know me, I'm never seen far without a mafia book in my hands. So that's definitely on the Kindle TBR. So the last one on my TBR, and I think I actually might get this on audio, I'm going to take with me Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. It just seems like such a beautiful book. So that's what's on my TBR. I'm a mood reader. This could all change by the next episode. You might be like, oh, how was all that? And I'll be like, what are you talking about? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm just so excited for this trip. I'm so excited to get some reading done and just experience something new. So if anyone is in the Canada area, I mean, Calgary is where we're going, but what do I need to try? What foods? What places? I want to know it all. And obviously, what bookstores should I be checking out? This week's author guest, her books just feel like a rom-com movie to me. They always make me feel like The Holiday does with Cameron Diaz and Jude Law. There's just something about them. They're always super funny, sweet, spicy. The plots are always great. I'm, of course, talking about the amazing Melanie Harlow. Melanie Harlow, thank you so much for being on the Book Tea with V. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
And I know what a busy woman you are. So again, thank you, because I know you've had deadlines and all sorts of things going on, but a lot of exciting things too.
Yeah, there have been a lot of exciting things, but I'll always take a break to talk about books.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I usually start at the very beginning and usually before even an author's journey. And I always do a bit of stalking on a website. And what I love your aesthetic. Oh my goodness. I was on your website for so long. But what I loved is your About Me was just, there was so much to you. There was so much to it. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't even have to try here. I found out you were a teacher, social studies, and a dance teacher too. And I think it got me thinking, like, had teaching always been a passion of yours first and foremost?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was an English teacher. I taught English and social studies. And then yeah, I've always been a dance teacher. So I really do enjoy teaching, but and I also love being a student. Like I love to take someone's class or course. I love reading craft books about writing. So if you've ever like dealt with any Clifton Strengths or anything, I'm number 4 learner. So I just love the process of learning. And so teaching, I think, came kind of naturally to me.
Yeah, amazing. And then dance teacher, I had no idea either. So is that something you still do in your life?
Yeah, it's always been a part of my life. You know, I did it all through school and I danced in college. And then this is really random, but I actually just purchased my old dance studio.
Oh, no way.
So my like former teacher was retiring, and so a friend and I, who have taught there for many years, she and I sort of bought it together. I don't have the, I won't be the day to day like manager. That will be her. But I was really, yeah, I was really, honored to be able to keep this studio in business,
Yes.
and yeah,
Be
it's
a
been
part of
it's a
it.
lot. It's yeah, and
You're
I
not
had
busy enough.
two. You're right. I really did not need to own a dance studio. And like, if anyone has ever taught at a studio or owned a studio, like you will know, like there's just a lot that you don't know that it's a lot. But both of my daughters danced there, and so it's just a really special place to me. And for anyone who's ever danced, your studio is like your second home.
Mhm.
So I really felt like it was a part of me that I'm really glad that to continue to work with dancers and see them grow.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Do you think that being having that dance studio will give you some ideas for future books?
No.
No, you're going to keep these separate.
Uh, I did write a character early on. This was one of my like a book from 2015 who owned a dance studio. But you know what's interesting? I am not drawn to fiction about dance or when the main character is a dancer. I something about it does not appeal to me. It's like I
Mhm.
keep those worlds separate, or I can tell if someone is writing is not a dancer or has never actually, been a dancer. So,
Yeah.
and that bothers me. So I tend to just separate the two and stay away from
Stay
it.
away from it. Fair
Yeah.
enough, because I know that you're an avid reader as well, and you love your romance. But when was it that you really decided to go, you know what? I think I'm going to try this author thing. Like, did you have a plot in your mind that was just some? Because I hear that some authors just have a plot that won't leave them alone, and that sort of gets them going. What was it for you?
I wish I had plots that wouldn't leave me alone. I am not an idea factory. I just really like writing, like the actual like sentence level writing. And I was always a reader, a kid with my nose in a book all the time. I'm an adult with my nose in the book all the time. And then when I first left teaching, when I had kids, I was like, oh well, when I take a break from teaching, I'll have so much time. I like forgot I'd have newborn babies. So
Who knew?
um, it took it took a little bit for me to have the mental like brain space and creative energy again. But my kids were young; they were maybe like 3 and 5, and I thought, okay, I think this was around like 2011. I was like, I think I'm really going to try this now. And I thought I would write YA. So I wrote a few YA novels. One was like a contemporary romance, one was like a time travel romance. And then I wrote this historical. And I would say the historical is probably closest to my heart
Mhm.
because I was a history major. I just really love history. So, and it was set in the 1920s. And I looked for an agent, and I, mostly what I heard was, this is great, but I can't sell it. It won't sell. Like the writing was good, and they wanted anything else that I would write, but they were like, no, this won't sell. And I was like, what do you mean it won't sell? If it's good and you like it, like, why can't you represent me? Um, and then at the time, I had friends who were starting to self publish because now this is like 2012,
Mhm.
2013. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to do it myself. So I revised it to make it not YA. I like upped the ages of the characters, upped the spice level,
Yeah.
and I had a really great time doing it. So I was like, okay, maybe I want to be like more of an adult romance writer. And, that was my first foray into self publishing, to any publishing. And it was a learning curve. Um, those agents were right. It didn't really sell. So I was like, okay.
That's the way of the
Um,
game.
yeah, they, I don't know why I didn't trust them, but so the historical is tricky, and I think especially too for self-published authors,
Mm.
it's a much harder market to break into than contemporary romance. So I
Yeah.
saw a lot more people having success self-publishing with contemporary romance. So I moved into that space in 2014, and I've been there ever since.
Oh, I love that. And I know that we will talk about that duet. But if you had to
This
say,
historical
yes, though, if you did have a favorite book of all time, what would it be
that I have written or that I've read.
that you've read?
So I have two favorite books that I could never choose between, and they have a lot in common, actually. One is Years by Lavrel Spencer, and one is called Fortune's Rocks by, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on Anita Shreve? Oh, I had a mental breakdown right there. So and they're both like have very romantic. I would say Years is probably like a straight up historical romance. And Fortune's Rocks has more of a women's fiction arc to
Okay.
it. But they're both historical. They're both single dad. They're both age gap.
Love.
Like these installed my buttons like very
Hmm.
like deeply. So those two, yeah. And I'm really drawn to writing those kinds of stories too.
Yes. And which I can, but I'll get into it later. But Ignite, I still think about probably once a week at least.
Very single
Oh,
dad, age gap.
that man.
Yeah.
That man. But
Yeah.
the Speakeasy duet, you say, and you say on your website, it's still, it's the first duet and it's still your favorite book that you've written. Is it because
It
it was the
has
first or?
I think it's the historical thing. I mean, I had to do a lot of
Yes.
research. This book is set, 100 years ago, but it's a period of time like during Prohibition that I am personally fascinated with. So the research was really intriguing to me, and just I loved that era, and I just really loved getting into the storyline of it, the suspense of it, and the romance of it. I really, but it had like, you know it was like a love triangle, like all these things that I would never do now, but I didn't know any better,
Sure.
and there's something really beautiful about that period of time in my life when I was writing it. I would even say my first contemporary romance, French, I felt the same way. I didn't really know what rules I shouldn't break and what rules I could play with a little bit. So it's just that time writing that book, I felt very free to
Yeah.
write the story and to be as creative as I wanted to, and there was no pressure.
No, true.
I didn't already have a career that I had to like live up to. I was just putting it out there. So I think there's a little bit of that too, and then just I just really love the time period.
Oh, I love that. And do you think that there's any future for historical romance for you? Can you see yourself, maybe not now, but in the future, you'd love to pick it up again?
I mean, I never say never,
Yeah,
but I don't have an audience of historical romance
this
readers.
is true.
So, I've worked for the last 10 years to build a following in contemporary romance. So
Mhm.
I would really have to sort of abandon that track
Yeah,
and find new readers. There are some who would come with me and maybe give it a try, but it would be. I think I would only do it if creatively I just felt really boxed in contemporary romance and I just
yeah,
needed the break. But also another thing that I've learned is that historical romance readers are very particular.
mhm.
Like there is no room for error. Like if you put like the wrong gloves on your heroine, they're gonna email you about it. So And I also think that, and I'm saying this, I don't know for sure, but I feel like historical romance readers read more traditionally published books than indie published books.
Sure.
So if I did, I probably would try to work with a publisher and
Hmm.
have them, and hopefully that partnership would put me in spaces where I would be exposed
Yes.
to historical romance readers, rather than just my audience of contemporary romance readers.
Yes. But that's look, you never say never. You never know what's going to
Never say
happen.
never.
So,
I said I would never write a second generation series, and I did that and I loved it. So never know.
and one of my favorite series of yours, actually, isn't it funny that you go, no, it's not for me, and actually, like, it must have been received so well.
I think because the original series had done well, it had a built-in audience
Yes.
that were eager to stay in that world, and especially because the original Cloverleaf Farms series finished up right as lockdown started. So there were 5 complete books in this series in this small town, sweet kind of world, that people just binged during lockdown and during
Yeah.
COVID. And then so they were attached to that world. And so then
Mhm.
when I went back to it, I think they came with me. And then I got some new readers from that next gen series too, because you can read it, it will stand alone.
Yes.
Like you don't have to read the original one. But yeah, I had a really good time doing that. In fact, I want to go back to that world, that second generation world, and keep writing there. I might do that next. I don't know.
Well, and I think we'd, open with arms because it was Ignite. Like, I go back to Ignite. I loved Tempt. I loved that whole series, but I think, I don't know what it was about Ignite, but it just sang to me. The characters sang to me. It was the little girls. It was just, I don't know. It just felt like being home. I wanted to dive in to that place, to that book.
That is like music to author ears. Yeah. The girls in Ignite were really fun to write, and they were based on my 2 daughters. Like I literally just took
Oh,
scenes of them with their dad and like wrote them. Like they would stand by him when he was like napping on the couch, and they would just like trash talk him while he was
that's
like
my
sleeping
favorite
on the
scene.
couch. I would laugh so hard and I'd be like, okay, this is so funny. And then, so years later, when I put it in a book, I was like, you guys remember when you used to do this? And so they would help me like come up with things that I could put in the book. Yeah, that was a fun book to write.
Oh, I can imagine. And it was around 2019, sorry, that you started your small town romance journey.
Yeah.
And there are, so many series that you have, but I'm going to be cruel. Is there a series or a book or character that just always sticks out to you within that sort of universe for you?
I mean, Cloverleaf Farms, that setting really
Yeah.
was special to me. That, the original family with the 5 daughters. It was the first time in my career I feel like I was very intentional about mapping out a series and what I wanted it to look like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever been that intentional ever again. So I did a lot of, really thinking about what it looked like and what it would feel like to grow up in this place. And so that setting and that world is really special to me. So I'd probably have to go with Cloverleaf Farms.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. And, I'm going to push characters. Who stands out of all your series?
Characters. Let me think. So there's a book from early in my career called
Mhm.
After We Fall,
Yep.
and it is about this farmer, like a small town farmer, and a city girl who like comes to his farm to like help them like expand into
Hmm.
like she's like a marketing, like a PR person, and his
Yes.
family is like the farm is struggling and they want to create like social media accounts and have offer like experience of the small farm or whatever. And this man just wants nothing to do
Yeah.
with it. He is like the epitome of the grumpy farmer, except he's super hot. And then
Then it's
uh
fine.
and she, was brought up, she was very elegant and wealthy, and you know she was like, "Oh, a farm. I love horseback riding. Like I have a horse." So she goes to this farm and he just cannot stand her. They just butt heads from the beginning. And I think like those two characters were very real to me. And so I'm going to say that Jack and Margot from After We Fall are probably like two of my favorite characters ever. But I will say like Dex and Winnie are pretty close
Yeah.
second to I loved that age gap. I love a single dad, a grumpy single dad.
You can't
And
beat
she was
it.
just being next door neighbors, like it was that was a fun story to write.
I feel like, I don't know personally because I'm not an author, but single dad must just lead to so many brilliant scenes. Like, do you find that it's not a struggle to come up with scenes for like single dad particularly?
Um, I mean, I think no, it is a struggle
It,
because I've
no,
written like five of them. So, you just have to make sure that you're being true to the particular character. You want to
yes.
make each one feel fresh somehow. And it is a challenge, but that's the job.
Well,
Um,
and it brings us nicely on to my next question because you said that plotting is the worst part of this for you. And
Mhm.
I just, I guess for authors out there who might have a similar situation or feel the same, how do you get around that? So how do you start when you have an idea? How does it work for you, your process?
So, I'm more of like an intuitive writer
Hmm.
because I'm such a voracious reader. Like there is a structure to a story, at least like in Western literature. Like
Hmm.
stories have a particular structure, and that's really deeply embedded, I think, in a part of my brain that I am not always entirely conscious of.
Yeah.
So when I come up with like a character or a premise, I often start with like a trope. Okay, well, if I want to write a single dad romance, like what's a way that I could make this, feel new to me? And then
Yes.
consequently, it will feel new to readers. Like with Ignite, for example, um, I knew I wanted him to be a single dad and a firefighter. And I was like, okay, well, what would be funny is if, what if she set off this smoke alarm in her apartment and he's like this grumpy man that has to go in there. So like little scenes like that. So I have something to go on. I often
Yes.
know where to start. I just am terrible at before I'm actually in there noodling around at seeing where it can go from there. I can't see it. I have to like type words on the page in order for it to unfold. I'm very envious of writers who can outline their entire story. They know what all the beats are, um, chapter by chapter. I'm like, what? That's a superpower. That's amazing. But it's not my superpower. I don't have
Not
it.
one of mine. Oh, that's so funny. And well, I guess, we've got Cherry Tree Harbor now. That's the latest
Hmm.
series. And I've
Hmm.
been really enjoying it because I feel like every single book has all my favorite tropes separately. But I will say, for some reason, the next release that you have coming out in October, I don't know, it's just starting to sing to me. Slapshot Surprise.
Yeah.
Pregnancy trope
Yeah.
is
This,
another one of mine that's just chef's kiss.
which one? The trope?
Pregnancy.
Oh,
It just is.
it's hit or miss with accidental pregnancy. I like it
Hmm.
because, I love writing the hero when he like finds out he's going to be a dad and he's like so unprepared for it. I've written several stories that have that element to
Hmm.
it. And it's a hoot every single time. Um, but yeah, I just finished that book. It's off at the publisher now. And so that one comes out October 1st, and it was a lot of fun to write. I had never written. So with Cherry Harbor, I wanted to do things that I had not done before.
Hmm.
So I did a runaway bride in one book. I did like a bodyguard romance in one book. I did probably Marriage of Convenience is the only one, book three, that I had done before.
Yeah.
But I had never done it like a Vegas like wedding, which was really fun to write. And then And then I did like a celebrity small town girl
Mm-hmm.
romance. I hadn't done that before. And then with this one, I have a hockey, like he's a hockey player. And so it was really fun to write. I will say I had a good time with it. And I actually wasn't going to write this book.
Oh.
So it so Cherry Harbor was about a family, and there were four brothers, and the youngest was a girl. And in books one, two, three, four, actually in book one, I set it up that she was off getting like her PhD. And I was thinking to myself, like, when I get to the end of the series, like this girl is only like 27 years old. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
bring her back from this, from off getting her PhD in anthropology, and like she wants to travel the world and be Indiana Jones. And why is she coming back to this small town when she's so young? I don't know if it was where I was with my life in real
Yeah.
life. I had a daughter graduating from high school, and I want her to like go off and do her thing.
Yeah. Spread your wings.
I could, so my brain was just locked. I could not think of a story that was good enough for this character. So I was like, you know what? Rather than write something that my heart isn't in, I'm just going to, maybe I'll write it later. I'm not going
Yeah.
to write that book. And then, of course, as soon as I said that, I got the idea where I just jumped forward in time a little bit. She's 30, she's
Mm-hmm.
moved back home, and she is on an airplane, and there's like terrible turbulence, and she's terrified, and she's sitting next to this ridiculously hot guy, and she starts just blurting out all these things that she never got to do because she thinks she's going to die, and it's super embarrassing. And then of course the plane is fine. And then she realizes like she just blurted out all her like deepest darkest secrets to this guy, and she hopes that she never sees him again. But it turns out he is a groomsman at the wedding she attends the next night. So
It just
then
sounds like
things
it's gonna be a lot of fun.
it was really fun to write. Yeah. 'Cause she was like she was a bookworm, like, and he's like a pro athlete. So there was a little bit of opposites in there. Um, there's accidental pregnancy. It was like a one night stand that, oops.
I can't wait.
It was really fun. Yeah. I hope readers have fun with it. I mean, the name is so silly, like Slapshot Surprise. My husband came up with that, and I laughed so hard when I heard it. And then I never thought of anything better. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go with it.
I
It's
love that. Does
fine.
he actually help you with any of the process when you are writing?
Um, he tries.
Mm-hmm.
He mostly makes ridiculous suggestions because he thinks it's hilarious. But he actually runs my ads for me. So he's
Ah,
very like he's a critical part of my business.
yes.
But he mostly leaves like the actual writing part to me. Sometimes I will be like, hey, can you help me come up with a reason why, X, Y, or Z?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was sitting around trying to come up with a title, and he was like, Slapshot Surprise. I was like,
And you're like,
okay.
wait,
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. I mean, I laughed, and then I was like, well, wait a minute. Why? I mean, can't I? Like, it has both things there. It has the hockey and it has the baby. So, yeah.
And you're now
Was,
finished with that one. I'm probably being
Mhm.
super cheeky. Do you have any plans to start writing anything out? Have you already started writing something else?
I have not. I like yesterday, this book was off my desk.
You're like,
So
give me a breath.
I'm going, my family, we're all going to the UK on Friday.
Oh
So
my
we're going to spend some
goodness, have
time
fun.
yeah, thank
Back
you,
to my
in
motherland.
London. Is it? Your
Yes.
motherland. So we're going to London, and I've never been to London, so I'm really excited about all of the like cathedrals and castles that I'm going to
Yes.
museums drag my family to. And then we're going to York for 3 days, where I will be signing at For Brit Book Fest.
Lovely.
And then we're going to Scotland for like another 5 days. So
Oh,
yes.
beautiful.
So I'm getting to vacation mode.
Nice.
And then when I get back, I will have to start writing again. So I really do think I will probably return to that second generation Cloverleaf Farms
Yep.
world. It's probably going to be a separate series
Hmm.
because there are already four books in
Yes.
Next Gen, Ignite, Taste, Tease, and Tempt. So I
Hmm.
think rather than go like book five, I'll probably
Yes.
have a book one and just it'll be in that world, but just a separate
Yeah.
next generation series.
Nice. And do you know what's been so fun about this interview is you organically bring me on to the next question. It's so much fun. Like I don't even have to try. You're like, oh yeah, we're going in like holiday mode. And I was like, oh, Melanie, you couldn't have made it better if you tried, because my last question before I take this offline, say goodbye, because I want to give you some tips for the UK of what you might want to see.
Yes, I've
Yes.
got my pencil right here.
Is I wanted to know if you could go to any city or any country to do research for a book, where would you go?
Gosh. Oh, that's going to be the question that takes me out. Um,
So the best will last, they say.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, Paris is a city that is always close to my heart. My dad was a bit of a Francophile, so he took me to Paris, just my dad and me when I was 12, and the city just sort of imprinted on me then as
Yeah.
like the most magical place in the world. So I always just really love Paris. Um so I guess maybe I have to go with Paris. Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah.
would be
I'll
so
say
much
that.
fun.
Good about that. I always will go to Italy. I spent some time there as a student, and I have not been back since. So I really would like to go back to Italy too. So, but maybe I'm gonna just fall in love with London and never want to come home. So
You never know. What month are you going? Are you like soon?
Friday.
Great
So
weather for you too. So you probably will fall in love with it.
yeah, yeah.
If you'd have said November, I'd have been like, well, take a coat and definitely an umbrella.
I mean, I'm from Michigan, so I'm used to the cold weather, but it is very hot here this summer. So we're looking forward to like a little bit cooler temperatures and just a nice
Nice.
time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. Thank you so much for being on the book tea with V and being with me today. It's been such a pleasure to speak to you. But I do want to take this offline because I do have some tips for you. So
I'm ready. Thank you so much for having me today.
no problem. Thanks so much. I just absolutely love Melanie Harlow. She was one of the first authors I reached out to because Dex in Ignite was I felt like one of my first books in my big reading journey. And when she got back and was like, sure, I'd love to, I, I fangirled. I did. And in honor of Dex, one of my favorite single dads, I wanted to give you some book recs. So these are my favorite single dad book recs. So Mr. Masters by T.L. Swan. It's a no-brainer. If you have not read this book, oh my God, the tension. It is so good. Caged by Luna Mason. When I heard that she was going to be bringing out a single dad romance, I knew it was going to be insane. It was incredible. I knew it was going to be. But yes, if you haven't read it, absolutely, you must. Heartless by Elsie Silver. I feel like we've all read it, but it's a crime not to include it. If you know, you know. Make You Mine by Laura Pavlov. You guys know Laura Pavlov is one of my favorites. I adore her. To be honest, I could give you a lot of book recs with Single Dad, but I simply don't have the time. I've got a plane to catch, guys, but I will leave you with one last one, and I'll leave you with a Melanie Harlow one. It's Runaway Love. It is so good. It's so sweet. And as always, it is so much fun. That is all for this week's episode of the Book Tea with V. I hope you had so much fun. And as always, if you want to get in touch, I'm at V Reads on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Wish me luck. I'm about to catch a flight. Bye, guys. That's the tea.